What's going on, everybody? Cheers. Happy Wednesday, or whatever day of the week it is when you are listening to this or watching it. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Nonetheless, welcome to With Her Two Hands, the weekly show where I have the unique privilege of getting to sit down with an incredible woman who works with her hands, building, making, fixing, doing all of the stuff that helps make the world go round. Female tradespeople, we are a small percentage, but we are a mighty force to be reckoned with, and numbers are growing. And it has been an absolute joy every week to get to sit down with these women and hear their stories, their journeys, their trials and tribulations, but also their wins and their successes. And this week will be no different. We have a fantastic guest joining us this week. I'm really excited to introduce you all to her. But first, I want to thank you guys all for tuning in and coming and hanging out with us each week. I want a big thank you to our sponsor, Drive Time, for their partnership in this series, without whom we would not be able to continue doing this. Going on 3 years now since this has started. Kind of crazy. I can't believe it's been 3 years already, but huge thank you to Drive Time for helping make that possible. If you're not familiar with them, definitely go check them out. Really cool organization and company. They create a lot of opportunities for young kids getting into the trades. And I am particularly grateful for their support and commitment to bringing more women into the automotive trades. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on tonight's guest. And instead of muggling up her introduction, I'm going to let her introduce herself. So without further ado, Kelly, hello. How are you?
Hello, thanks for having me. I guess I am Kelly, Ireland. I am a registered master plumber in the city of Philadelphia, and I own my own residential service business, TPG Mechanical.
Awesome. And you're right in Philadelphia, right? You're in Philadelphia proper?
So I personally live right outside, about like 5 minutes south of the Philadelphia airport, which is, what everybody knows if you're from out of town. So if you're ever flying in, give me a call and I'll come pick you up and you can park your car here. But either way, I live right there, but all of my work is really in Philadelphia, mostly West Philadelphia, South Philadelphia, the whole Fishtown, Kensington area. Really North Philadelphia is like further away, so that's like my least, touched area, but majority of my work's in Philly.
Fair enough. And you travel all over for your work. You've got clients all over the place, right?
So I mean, like I said, most of my clients are in Philadelphia. I will travel. I try not to travel too. I mean, I'm always willing to. I have people, in New Jersey who ask. I don't really get too many calls for Delaware County, but out in the counties, I will travel up to a certain distance. But I just let them know that, like,
yeah,
usually if it's like a bigger job, it's harder to tie me down to a further location. And I'm always happy to like refer. Like I have people up in the Northeast. When people call, then I always refer them to them. That way, like we have a network and sort of stay in our location. But I do get the occasional request that they don't care and that they'll wait, and and then I just make it work.
Because they love you.
Yeah, so, and it's nice because they'll support women, and that's usually their motivation, which is why we're here.
Do you find that you get a lot of customers because they find out that you're a female plumber and that people are coming to you strictly for that?
Yeah. A lot of my calls start with, I heard you're a girl. I'm like, oh, yeah. I am. Hold on, let me check. Yeah.
Last time I checked.
Yeah, so that's cool, which is really awesome because I came from construction world where the feeling was not the same. I was either talked past or talked through or eyes rolled or like, I can't believe this is my partner. Whereas like coming into the residential sector, homeowners just treat me like I'm the professional, which I mean, I am. So that's really nice to not have to like hurdle that double standard or like climb that barrier. Every once in a while I'll get someone snooty or, who just assumes I'm a girl, so I'm going to either be cheaper, or when I talk to them, they try to explain to me what my job is. And so, but I've learned to, like, especially being in construction for 7 years, how to navigate it with kindness.
Yeah. It's so interesting you bring that up, the idea of like, "Oh, I thought it would be different or you'd be cheaper because you're a girl." I've not encountered that often, but I have encountered it where it was, and I forgot about it until you just said that, where I had a customer at one point, like, it was a situation where it was totally beyond our control. It was, unrelated issues, yada, 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 and her response was, "I thought it would be different because you were a woman." And I'm like, just because 'cause I'm a woman doesn't make me able to do work for free.
Right, right.
Or make me a
Yeah.
superhero that can wave a magic wand and fix your car.
We are pretty magical, but there's limits.
It's an interesting thing, but yeah, it's, that I think that's one of the biggest perks of being a business owner and working for yourself is, like, there's that filter where people aren't gonna come to you as a customer unless they are okay with you being a woman, and so you kind
Right.
of almost don't have to deal with all of the crap anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that
So
definitely is a nice transition, especially from like the rough and tough grind of construction, which I love construction work, but they're definitely the double standard is much more prevalent there.
So let's go back in time a little bit and let's talk about like your origin story. Like how did you get into plumbing? And then I want to talk about how you got into the union, what that experience was like, and kind of that experience so that we can contrast it to what you're experiencing now and
Yeah.
kind of dig into it. So how did you start?
So really, we were trying to get my kid's father in. Naturally, he's a man. My dad was a union plumber, um, and we needed health benefits. We needed a stable career. We had two kids. Like, we both worked in the restaurant industry, which is nice because it's flexible, but it's not nice because it's usually impossible. And I love to work. I love fast paced, like hands-on, active, physical work. So restaurants are fun, but I hated smelling like grease every day. So I just was, I had already dropped out of nursing school. I was 3 years in that and just hated it. Um, and so he didn't want to apply, and I did. Not that I necessarily even wanted to. I just was like, why not? Like, if you don't want to do it, I'll just do it. Um, and
Interesting.
so I went, filled out an application. I had a 2 hour like sit down, almost like interrogation. It was very genuine and very like respectful. It wasn't like, do you think you belong? It was like, how do you think you can cope, and blah blah blah. And even though I hate that those questions are asked to us, they kind of, I mean, it's definitely a rude awakening if you're not ready to like walk into an industry that is going to hold the double standard and going to look at you differently just because of your gender. So I don't like sugarcoating things, but also I'm like, why do we have to like, why did I need to, did you have all the guys sit here for 2 hours individually
Nope.
asking if they could hack it? And I had plenty of classmates who couldn't, and didn't make it. So, but either way, I did that. That's a 5 year apprenticeship.
So that was
You
an interview
work.
just to get into the school. Sorry to interrupt. That was just
No,
to
no,
get
no.
into the
That was
school program.
that was an interview to see if I should give them my application. Like,
Oh my goodness.
like so, and like I said, like, so my dad, was well known in the union. He set up the CAD program in the union. He taught CAD in the union. So that was like definitely a leg up of like a little bit of nepotism. But the training director like sat me down and said, like, are you ready for this? Do you think you can handle
Mm.
this? And I'm like, not for nothing. I'm 1 of 10. I said, if anyone knows about like torture and hazing, and I mean, I've never been a part of a sorority, but like I've lived it since birth, like
You had
I've,
9
I've gotten the
siblings.
wedgies. I had to like, lick my sister's toes and weird shit that like we shouldn't have to do, but we did, right? 'Cause
Nine
I have 9
siblings. Good
siblings and
Lord.
we need to occupy. Yeah. So, and that was cool. I was the first, and I am the only plumber after my dad. My brother is a steam fitter, so he's like in the pipe trades. But that was like my dad wrote my letter of recommendation, and that was one of the things that like was my most proud moment. Like everybody grows up, you're a teenager, you hate your dad, your dad's annoying, he's too bossy. He wrote me this letter of recommendation, and when I read that, I was like, damn, my dad loves me. Like he's proud of
Oh,
me. He thinks I can do this. Like, and he said that he's like, out of 10 kids, like I can't imagine anyone being better than Kelly could be at this. And that was really
oh.
like, that was, yeah. Kind of like
Right?
that,
That's awesome.
right?
Yay,
Yeah.
Dad. That's
So
fantastic.
and it was never, I never went like side jobbing with him. I did do summer help. I worked in the office where he worked because he was a CAD manager. So he like drew all the designed the piping for high rises and stuff. So I would like make copies and sit there and talk to all the sketchers and whatever. And I was in high school, and it's cool, and I got paid a lot of money. And I was always good. They were always like bring Kelly in. We have a lot of work that we need done. But I never thought like I could be the one with the tools. It just, not that I couldn't, it just like was not a thought. Like I've never
Interesting.
seen a female plumber, so like why would I ever assume that, like I considered military before going in, before becoming a plumber. I considered nursing, which I really liked science, but I hated college, and I I just hated being. I did a 4-year program. It just wasn't the right choice. Like I needed hands-on learning, and that's the amazing thing about like the skilled trades apprenticeships is you learn and you work.
Yeah. So you said you're fourth generation, which means dad, grandpa, great grandpa, right? Did
So
dad want someone else in the
yeah.
family or no? Sorry, go ahead.
No, no. Well, no, it just wasn't thought of. I am like from the generation that you have to send your kid to school, or you're like a failure as a parent or a failure as a
Mm,
child. Like I'm no child left behind. That happened, I guess I was in 8th grade, and
okay.
everything became about tests and became about like shop classes were just taken out of schools, art classes were taken, anything that was like tangible, physical was gone. And and literally my guidance counselor was like, you're good at science, become a nurse
Mm,
or a teacher. And that's what she said. And I was like, well, I don't really want to go to college. And she literally said, she's like, if you don't go to college, you'll never get to the position that you can become, like to a level. Like if I went to an LPN like program where I worked and learned, she's like, you'll never become a registered nurse. But that was like high schools were pushing college, right? High schools
yeah.
wanted to meet their quotas. They wanted good percentages to like put out there that, they have an 89% college graduate,
Mm-hmm.
whatever rate. So I just think I was part of that generation. When I was little, I used to tell people like my dad's a plumber, but he's not the kind who works with tools. He's at a computer because it was respectable. It was not respectable to come home with dirty, muddy boots. Meanwhile, now
Mm.
it's like, I'm like, take a selfie. I look so dirty. Like, let's show my sisters what I did. Look at this tool. And that my first year was like, take a picture with me. This tool, I can't even hold it. And they would laugh at me. I'm like, dude, I have 6 sisters. Like, I need to share this. take a picture. And sometimes they would, and sometimes they wouldn't. And so, and I would always tell them, I'm like, you've had how many years to take pictures of yourself? Like, I'm like, I look way cooler holding this tool than you do. I said, it's bigger than me. And that was my attitude. And I loved it. Like, I loved the excitement, the learning, the ability to like control something that is more powerful than me. And that was cool. And that was like a whole new perspective. Like, I was always a hard worker, but like, put a giant chipping gun in my hand, and then like I'm like, I will cut you out the most beautiful little square. And everybody that they would always say that, like, oh, look at Kelly's square, it's so good, it's not all chipped up and blah blah blah. And I'm like, I don't understand why you guys can't get it like that. Like, just take your time. I'm like, be gentle. I'm like, the machine is crazy enough, like, you be gentle.
Right.
So, and
Interesting.
it was really fun. It was really fun, which was cool because restaurants were really stressful. Like, you had the long lines, you had like craziness, and it was fun because like you were always friends with your coworkers, so you like made times good. But this was like, I'm like, I'm on top of a ladder, like hanging off and drilling holes and making messes. And I'm like, what? Why doesn't everyone want to do stuff like this?
Did it surprise you? Did you know how much fun it was going to be? Did that like totally catch you off guard? Were you prepared
Totally
for that?
off guard. I was so like, I got to my first job and I just was like, it was cold. It was February, or the end of January. There was no windows, and I was so scared. I'm like, I'm going to a guy who probably doesn't want me on his job. Well, he didn't, because he had passed me up back in November to take a guy. So, and now I'm on his job. But like, my attitude turned that around. And I mean, my attitude definitely dug me into ditches, but it also like got me out of them. I always was like willing and ready. I didn't care. You know, guys would be too good for jobs because they were a plumber for 10 years and they don't core holes and they don't chip concrete. And I'm like, dude, why? Like, this is the fun part. And my foreman said, he's like, keep that attitude, because that attitude will keep you working. And then he laid me off, but it is what it is. But
Why did he lay you
I
off?
was,
Should we dig into that?
I mean, it definitely, yeah, we could.
Did you deserve that one?
No, well, I mean, you know, it depends. Like, I was partnered up with his, like, so every foreman has their apprentice, right? Their gopher, we would call them, because they always go for everything. And that was my partner, and he was sort of cool in the beginning, like very like, this is how you do things, this is how you pick things up, this is how we work. And then it was like, I'm gonna go take a nap in the closet, get all the work done.
Oh.
And I would like, I'm like, well, I'll just do it. Like, I like what I'm doing, and I don't need to take a nap, so go take a nap. And then he became like my nemesis, and
Mm.
he was always the guy who I was like, I mean, that's the reason I fucking got laid off my first job, because Kelly's on her phone all the time. And that was the thing, like, we would both be waiting for a delivery, and I'm not denying any accountability. Like, we both had our phones out. It was the age of like, touch screens just came out, Facebook on the phone, whatever it is. Like, you could watch YouTube on the phone. He's watching porn on the phone. So
Oh boy.
like, I'm just like watching Facebook, whatever. Like, and people would walk by and, Kelly's on her phone. Like, I'm like, I swear to God, I'm going to shave my head. Like,
Oh my
I
goodness.
swear that it's that ponytail. It's the ponytail, or my pink hoodie, or whatever it
Right.
was. Because like, I was like loud and proud about, like, I'm a girl, I'm little, I'm gonna do big shit. So I was always in your face about it, and that is not the way to be in a competitive, like, world. So, meanwhile, like other guys loved it and like led me with it because I was a go-getter and eager to learn and I wanted to hold all the tools. They let me work. Whereas like other guys who don't want to hold the tools, they're not getting up in the lift doing the stuff like their partner is, and they're just whatever, organizing a gang box.
Yeah.
So it definitely, after my first layoff, my whole thing was like, Kel, you just seen, not heard, seen, not heard. Like, all you have to do is keep your mouth shut, no matter what. My mouth was not staying shut. So, I'd have a good couple of first weeks and it'd be like, this girl's awesome. She's the best worker. And then I'm like, oh, well, why are we doing it wrong? Or why are we cutting this corner? And they're like, shut the fuck up. And then, so, but it wasn't,
you're a girl from like New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania area. Like I could have told you there was no way you were keeping your mouth cut.
Right. No.
Not heard. There's
And
no
one
way.
of 10. And one of 10. I'm like, you're crazy if you're not thinking like I'm an attention seeker. I said I lived with 9 siblings. Like I want everyone to see me do this shit, right? Like my mom was too busy to like I would never like discredit my mom. She made our soccer game, she made my gymnastics meets, but like I'm like, I just want to be the center of attention, and that's like sort of like then Instagram came and I was like, oh, take a selfie, this, that, and I was like, why can't women be in the spotlight? Like you guys have been on the bus signs or the billboards for 100 years. It's our turn. So that was my approach.
And some people didn't like that, I assume.
Some people did not like that. And that's okay.
So we fast forwarded here a little bit, but I want to go back again. So you went to the school. How big was the school program that you went to?
So my class was, I think, started with 17 people and we graduated with 15. So not huge.
This is a small program.
Well, that's just my class. So now there's a lot more kids. Like I was coming through right after the recession, so they were skipping taking classes. So it was really slim in the beginning, but now I think it's like 120 in the program. Not so, and then they're just like tiered. Every 6 months is like a different tier of, you're either first period, second, up to 10. So there's usually 10 periods of classes.
So tell me a little bit about the program, because I'm not familiar on the plumbing side. I'm assuming it's probably pretty similar to automotive where like you don't have to go to school in order to do the job, but school can be beneficial. Do you tell me if it's the same? Are you grateful that you went to school? Like, tell me how that all works on the plumbing side of things.
So on the plumbing side, I mean, every state is different. So every state makes up its own laws about like plumbing, about all trades. In Pennsylvania, you need 4 to 5 years of an apprenticeship under a master plumber. So you don't necessarily need to go to school. You need to have a certain amount of hours to work each year to like graduate to the next level of your apprenticeship. And you need to be under a certified, like a registered master plumber, and you have to pass tests. So that's where school comes in handy, is like they give you the material to study for these tests. Like school for me, I mean, I hated school. So, but the thing is like, it wasn't necessarily like English 101, I mean, we definitely had math in school, and every trade will. But it wasn't like that repetitive high school, like all over again, which is what I was dealing with in the nursing side. So school was great. Like I would never want to do it any other way. To have both is really beneficial. But I will say, like, it really depends who you work for, who your partners are, like if you're going to learn more in the field or in school. So like school is great because if you are on a job site with like bad mentors or a contractor who literally just makes you pick up trash all day, then school's like a good backup to learn. I luckily was always doing something different. So I was always learning different things. And like the variety of work that I had under my belt by the time I graduated was really cool. Like I definitely, it's something to be proud of, I would say.
That's awesome. Were you working at the same time as you were going to school? So you were like doing
Yeah.
both hands-on and okay.
Yep.
Is
So I
that
started
common?
school. What? Yeah, that's the way, like, that's how apprenticeships generally work. So if you're non-union, like, they do have like schools that you can go to, like trade schools. I don't necessarily know. I mean, I'm sure that like I, as a registered master plumber, could take on an apprentice, and then over the 5 years, like as long as I can get them to pass this test and teach them everything via job, like you don't necessarily have to go to school.
Interesting.
But the thing is like plumbing field is so vast that I mean, there's months where I'm only touching toilets. It just is like the month of toilets, and every job is like a toilet switch, fix the toilet, fix the wax ring, like whatever it is, and then it'll be like faucets and you know it does mix up, but like that's how my journey really started, was drain cleaning. I started drain cleaning
Okay.
for my business,
Yeah.
not in commercial. So I started drain cleaning because of COVID. Everybody had the wipes and I'm drain cleaning. And
Mhm.
then everybody's home and their faucets start dripping. So then I'm learning how to, you know, take faucets apart. And that we didn't learn through like the union apprenticeship. You don't really learn the residential side. So that was all like I had a different mentor
Interesting.
that I would call, and my dad. And I'm like, Dad, I just opened a wall and I don't know what I'm looking at. So you know, my phone a friend. And that's sort of like, we really all, especially like with this social media, like people have their tight knit groups, they have their little chat boxes, and they're all like, oh, I just pulled this apart and look at what I found. And that's like real, I mean, that's how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to teach the next generation, and that's how trades, and that's why like nepotism plays into it a lot, because you know the dad has the son come and whatever it
Yeah.
is. But that's, I mean, if you look at like old school tradition, like that's how it was, you know, you were a
Yeah.
carpenter and you taught your son how to build chairs, right?
Right.
And it just was like the natural way of things. Um, so yeah, like I said, school is not, it's not totally essential, but you definitely, I mean, it definitely is. I wouldn't
Helpful.
recommend it another way. And honestly, I don't, you know, I've like talked to people who are non-union, but like, especially as a woman, I would always recommend trying to
Mm.
go union if it's available and the possibilities there, and you're okay with that type of work. And that's the thing, is like the union, at least in Philadelphia, is mainly large commercial. So like if you're trying to do residential, the union might not be your best bet. But it's harder to find contractors who will just pick you up. Whereas the
Mm.
union, you go through that process and you start, and they do job placement. And that's the cool thing. So I was in school for 6 months. I was the last one to go to work in my class. But usually it, like when work's really good, like right now, they're pulling kids who haven't even, they've like finished the application process but haven't started school. So
Oh wow.
it all depends. But I was 2012, work was still really tough then, like with the recession of '08 and everything.
There was enough work to go around back then. There wasn't as much of a deficit of tradespeople then. Is that what you're saying?
No, the opposite. Well, there
Oh,
was not, well, so not necessarily a deficit of tradespeople, it was a deficit of work.
of
So
work. Okay.
not that we had too many tradespeople, because the decline in the trades has been happening basically since No Child Left Behind, and everybody was encouraged to become a project manager instead of a plumber. Um,
Right.
And I think that's like the mentality now, is everybody just wants to like sit at a desk and go golfing on Friday and get a nice paycheck and with bonuses. Which I mean, I worked in the office and I hated it. I hated it. So I like the hands-on, which is why I quit nursing school and why I love trade school so much, because even in school, you're in a welding booth. In school, you're outside in the parking lot learning how to lay out, like whatever it is, the classes are generally hands-on. Like we do have like I said, we have like a little bit of union history classes. We do have math classes where you're sitting and it's boring and you're, shooting spitballs across the room, whatever it is. But it was much more interactive, which held my engagement, because not everybody is built for like school and tests.
Yeah. So the school, was it part of the union? It was like a union program?
Yeah. So the UA offers a 5-year apprenticeship, and the UA is international. So it's all pipe trades. It's plumbers, steam fitters, sprinkler fitters.
Oh, wow.
And some Boilermakers. And so we're all under the UA, and then individually, like there's some combined locals, which have plumbers and steam fitters. In Philadelphia, we're separate. So plumbers have their own local, they have their own school, they do their own thing. If you go into plumbing, you're a plumber. Steam fitter, like my partner, she's a steam fitter. She went through the steam fitting school. Like she would never go on a job and be a plumber, even though we work with the same material. But over in New Jersey, it's a combined local. So I'm not, every combined local is different. Like some of them allow you to test out in both. Some of them make you pick. And it really, like I said earlier, it's all about like jurisdiction. It's about state, regulations. So I can, be in Pennsylvania and I can pipe in a house perfectly. And then I can go to Arizona and I'm like, I have no clue what you're doing, because they require this or they require that. And it's just, I mean, it seems there are universal plumbing codes, but not everybody adopts them. And Philadelphia is like old school. So we have the universal, and we tailor it to Philadelphia code. So like we still require cast iron. We still, like, a lot of things that other states have like gone past.
Interesting. I'm curious, if your dad if you didn't have plumbing in your family history, do you think you ever would have been exposed to knowing about this even?
Nope, not at all. Not even a little. I mean, it really, like I said, we needed healthcare, and we were like, David, go apply to be a plumber. And he's like, I love cooking. I'm not doing it. And he still is. Like, he like moved up the ladder in his industry, and I moved up the ladder in mine. And really, like, after I went to my first job, I was like, wow, like this was meant to be. And that's when like my drive started about like being visible. Take the picture of me doing it, because when I was a little girl, I mean, I would have considered moving to Las Vegas and being like a porn star over a plumber, just because that was what was visible. I don't mean to be like, but like for real, like I knew women could make money off of their body, but I had no idea we could hold a wrench and make money. Like, and that was all because of visibility, right? It's all because of visibility. I can't tell you how many women reach out to me and tell me, like, I saw your picture of you holding this tool, and now I'm in my apprenticeship, or I applied for this, and that, I'm like, that's the train. We got to get it rolling, because there is there's a huge skilled trades gap, because people are retiring and dying. And I would say it's a couple things. Like, first, it's only tailored to mainly white men to get in, right? But they all want to be project managers now. They all want to go golfing on Friday. Who wants to, but like women are like, wow, this tool is cool. Like, I'll definitely do this. And I think we bring a new light to it. And I think opening the door for that diversity, first off, like, it's getting very stagnant. Like, we have AI coming in and people are stubborn about that, so they're fighting that. Like we need people who have these open minds, who are willing to not, it's not like we let AI take over. It's how do we work with AI to make our jobs more efficient? And I feel like women have that like efficiency drive where it's like, I know you can do all this, but like, really, if we just go straight, it will get right there. Like, and we could just go straight. And they're like, yeah, but yeah, whatever. And I mean, I can't, I've worked with like super, super smart guys, hardworking, amazing work ethic. Like, if it weren't for some of the guys that I worked with, I certainly wouldn't be where I am and know what I know. But I just think like diversity in the trades is, I mean, there's never one way to solve a problem in the building industry. And you never know, like, this wall here might make you do this, but the wall over here is going to make you do it a different way. And so to know and be open to both sides without being stubborn and saying like, well, my mentor taught me this way and this is the only way. And
Right.
like, we need that. We need that open-mindedness, and especially in a world where like we are getting eaten up by AI. Like,
Yeah.
we have
No,
to like, oh, go.
I, I think you're absolutely right. There's this partly because of the apprenticeship program and the way that skills have been handed down, like generationally, is it kind of has created this, well, this is the way it's always been done mindset. And I think when you get fresh blood in the industry, which is women, because there's not a lot of women in the industry, so it is fresh and it's a fresh perspective, and they don't tend to come with that baggage of this is the way it's always been done, so that's the way we're always going to do it. It's a little bit more open-minded, potentially, although not always, right? Like, I
Right.
know plenty of
Yeah, I know. There's anyone is subject to like the
sure.
anyone. So anyone can equally be just as shitty or just as great, right? I
Yes.
think also one thing is generally women who are getting into this aren't getting into this with like the faint of heart. Like, they know that there's going to be an uphill battle. They know, so like they're getting in this to be in this, as opposed to like, I hate college, which I mean is my situation. I hate college, so I'm just going to join a trade because my dad is a tradesman and I know like that's my situation. But also, like, I didn't really get the handouts that guys get when it's like easy like that. Like, I was looked over many times by foremen. Like, I don't want the girl on the job. I'll take this guy. And it doesn't matter that he's taking naps in the closets or whatever it is, because he doesn't have a ponytail. And when people walk by, they're not like, oh, that person's on the phone. Like, or I mean, and this is the worst part, is like, everybody's just scared that a woman's going to come on and then cry about like sexual harassment. It's like, well, why are we punishing the woman instead of
Mm.
educating the men? Like, why are we empowering that predatory behavior by excluding women, as opposed to bringing the woman on and saying like, you need to get your shit together and hold your pants
Yeah.
up or you're out.
Right. Right. Yeah, it always cracks me up when I hear male employers say, like, I don't want to hire a woman because I'm afraid of the lawsuit, or I don't
Yeah.
want to expose myself to that. And I'm like, how little respect do you have for the men that work for you that you don't think that they can control
Yeah.
themselves around a woman? And if you don't think that they're capable of working around women, then you shouldn't have them around customers, and maybe they shouldn't be your employee, because maybe we should elevate the job site for everybody, both male and female. And like, why
Yeah.
is that even an issue, right?
Yeah. And that was always one thing, like being on construction sites. I never wanted to pull like girl cards, like, oh, I don't have a porta potty. I always say porta john.
Very telling.
Gender porta john, right? So porta potty. Anyway, and like it was never about that. It was about why don't the men have toilet paper in theirs, right? Like if I don't
Right.
have one and I'm in theirs, like I already see the horrors in their situation. Like why aren't we uplifting that? And I had a superintendent who came up to me, and we would like talk a lot because I'm always talking, but I'm always like analyzing things and criticizing things, like the way things are. And he's like, I don't understand why any person in their right mind is wiping poop on the porta potties.
Right.
And
Like, why
and
is
I
that
said,
acceptable? Period.
and you are correct. You are correct. But why do you think it's acceptable to provide a toilet that never gets changed, that the poop is coming out of the top? You literally have to stand over the toilet seat to drop a deuce. Otherwise, you're sitting in it,
Oh.
and you provide no toilet paper. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to do exactly what the child does who's stuck in their crib, who needs their diaper changed. They're going to wipe it on the walls. It's a retaliation. So, and that's like one thing that I'm really like working on promoting out loud, but like also practicing, is that it's like everybody's all like, oh, you can't do participation trophies, you can't do, it's not all about, but like really, it's not, it's just about dignity, treating people with respect. Like
Yeah.
a porta potty with toilet paper and a little bit of hand sanitizer will go a long way. Sure, maybe this job site, you're still going to have that one average Joe who, graffitis and writes, all the girls' names and draws, what they think their boobs look like, because that happens everywhere. But if we just start slowly and provide the toilet paper and put it in a shaded area instead of in the middle of the sun where you're having a heart attack because you're taking a leak in the middle of the summer. Like if we did all of that, like eventually I think we would change the mindset that like, they're like, I like a clean porta potty, so I'm not going to put my poop on the walls. And I think that's like, I really think it needs to start from the top, because we've been like, every finger always gets pointed to the worker, but it's like, what are the managers doing to prevent it? Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, no, oh my God, that is such an incredible point, and I'm so glad you bring that up, because you're right. It is. It's like if we, and it becomes a cyclical thing, right? Because if we don't treat the workers, the employees, the hands-on folks with respect, then they will not act with self-respect because they're not
Right.
receiving respect. And then that becomes this thing where you like you explained, like acting out almost. And then that creates the negative stereotype about tradespeople, and that makes the parents not want their kids to go into those career paths,
Yep.
when at the end of the day everybody appreciates a clean bathroom. And it's not doing it for the girls, like, oh, we've got a girl on staff now we have to start doing XYZ. Like, no, we should be doing those things because we're human beings and we should be treated with respect, period, male or
Yeah.
female.
Right.
And then
And
when
that
that
that was
changes,
always
everything
my
else.
thing. Yeah. Because people were like, oh, they didn't give you a toilet, a female toilet, break the men's. And I'm like, why is
How does
that?
that help?
Why is that? Then men and women don't have a toilet, clean or dirty. And like,
Oh my God.
what's that going to do? It'll teach
Yeah.
them a lesson. No, they, first off, they don't care already. Like breaking the toilet literally will only hurt us. Like, and,
Yeah.
and I mean, I don't know. It's a really tough call, because there is such a culture that is toxic in the trades, in any trades industry. It's toxic in any, I would say, job. It could be nursing. It could be like just workers feeling undervalued, like you said, makes them treat themselves and undervalue themselves. And then we do silly things like in retaliation, instead of getting paid a livable wage, what we should get paid. We should have health benefits, because if we're sick, we can't work. So we should be able to go to a doctor so that way we can work. There's like a whole cycle. And I just think, I mean, I work really hard to be the change that I want to see from the bottom, but
Yeah.
I always make sure that like people understand that it's the top that has the power to change a lot faster than we do.
Are these the reason, like, is this why you wound up leaving the union and starting your own job? Is it like the culmination of all of these things, or what precipitated, or what made you decide, like, all right, it's time for me to do something different?
So I absolutely never wanted to start a business. All the guys would say, "Oh, you're a woman, just start, the 51% and you'll be rich, you'll be a millionaire, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, I like to be a plumber. I really like it. I know you come in every day and you fucking hate this job, and I fucking hate this. I fucking hate this. I'm like, take that negative attitude and I'll just do the work by myself. Like, you can go over there with your Hawaiian shirt and hate whatever you want. Just let me drill in peace. Right. And so that, like, it really got tough because I a lot of times felt like my integrity as a worker, like I have phenomenal work ethic. I don't mean to toot my own horn, but like I was 13 and I was even younger. Like when I went to take your daughter to work day with my neighbor and I was her secretary's assistant, like I was filing like crazy. I was filing stuff she had sitting there for 2 years. She's like, "I've had this for 2 years and now it's all done." Like I just always am like, give me a job, tell me where I need to like end up, the result you want, and I'll do it. Like, and I love that. Like, I love to produce something and say, damn, I did that. Maybe it's the attention thing, maybe it's one of 10, like, but that I thrive on that. And I think many of us we're just not empowered to do it. So people like start getting lazy. And why do they get lazy? Well, because they see Kim Kardashian being a billionaire because of a GoFundMe, and all working class gave the Kardashians money to become a billionaire. Like, why would we, touch a toilet if we can just try to be a Kim Kardashian? And I think that mentality really hurts us. But I don't know. I just think it's really like all about empowerment and that. So I had a hard time being in the companies that I was in because I felt like, don't you want a good name for yourself? So eventually I got laid off, probably because of my mouth, is what I assume, in the beginning of 2020, with COVID, and right before COVID. And so I got my master's license to try to make myself more marketable and this is like to still try to keep working commercial, plumbing, and that wasn't working out, but my phone was ringing off the hook. My drain's clogged, my faucet needs to be changed. And so while I was unemployed, I just kind of like fell into that and sort of did that. And then by June, I met someone, and it was through Instagram. And he was like, "Why aren't you starting your own business?" And I was like, "Because I'm a commercial plumber. Like, I'm not a residential plumber. I don't know anything about residential plumbing. I have no desire to be a business owner. Like, I like climbing high rises and putting in big pipe." And so he just sort of, he just, like, I rode his coattail. He taught me residential stuff and sort of like, just was like, "Oh, well, let's finish your master's license. Let's get you some insurance, because in order to have your master's license, you need the insurance." And he sort of like set me up like that. And then next thing I know, I have an LLC, and his customers are calling, and they're like, can you send the girl? Like, so things like that. Like, I mean, if it weren't for him, and he like subtly empowered me to like think, because I didn't want to be a business owner because I wasn't business minded. And then he just like sort of showed me like, you don't really need, like, stay plumbing minded, but like in the business world, like things just started clicking. Like, next thing I know, I'm pulling my permits, and but at first I was pulling permits, like his permits, like online. Just he was just like teaching me how to do it, and that was really how it evolved. And I mean, really, if he did not reach out to me and like pull me out of because I just was like, I'll just go work at the supermarket if they never hire me. Like, I just was like doom and gloom, right? And he just pulled me up and just showed me that I could do it. And I like, it was the same high that I was getting from like using that big chipping gun. Like, I'm like, I went into someone's house who had no functioning bathroom, and I cleared this drain, and it took me 8 hours. But now, like, their relief, my relief, like, we're all crying, everything's good, I'm getting a nice fat paycheck. Like, it just really, it like, I started feeling that high as opposed to the high of like the exhilaration of being on a high rise. And while I miss it all the time, and some days I'll be bitter, but really that's what gets me through. Is like today, I was talking to a landlord, and I don't really do a lot of work with landlords because I'm pro tenant. I'm a tenant. I'm a renter, right? So I'm always like but like, I sat there and I empowered the landlord to like know her rights and know where she should like, and also how to educate her tenant so that her tenant can, and I just think like what I learned from him doing that with me, I just like have been like trying to radiate it for everybody, right? From little kids who walk in and they're like, why is she doing that? Like, and I'll talk to them, to the single moms, and I'm like, listen, like, you're about to pay me $200 to do this. How about I teach you? That way the next toilet you can do it, or the next, and that is sort of, because I definitely, like, in the beginning I was like, I don't want to be a capitalist, and I don't want to be a business owner, and I don't want to be, like, I'm anti-system and yada yada. I don't want to pay taxes, and then it was like, yeah, but look at like the power that, the power that I was given from someone believing in me, I can transfer it into someone else, and that really is like a drug that I can't get enough of.
That is so beautiful. I absolutely love that. And there's so much there's so much impact that you're getting to have now on people, on changing and challenging perceptions that people have of women in the trades, of what being in the trades in general looks like what that means. So there's so much opportunity there, and I love how much you're lighting up talking about it. Like, that makes my heart so happy. Like, you can see how much joy it brings you. And it is such a different rush. I can only imagine you were doing huge projects. I mean, you were plumbing new buildings and doing I've seen some of the videos, the stuff you do. You were doing some crazy stuff. That's got to be a huge switch in just everything.
For sure. And I mean, but also, even honestly, a switch in my personal life. Like, I now can be the mom who, or the business who sponsors my kids' sports teams. And not only that, but now, like, I can accommodate the schedule so that I can be the mom at the kids' sports games. And so, I mean, really, like, it has transcended in my whole life, where I I definitely like came in and I was this angry woman, man hater, everybody would say. I'm trouble because I always had this opinion where like, and I always think, I'm like, if I was thrown back into a construction site, like I would really would like to see like how it would play out with like this different mindset. My mentor was the last person in the world that I ever thought I would like link up with. He is, special operations military. He just,
Oh, wow.
like, and I'm Miss, like, I've never even shot a gun. And now, like, I was able to like work, he empowered me and like taught me that even with the differences, like if I can overcome my anger and like build like the perception of like inclusiveness, like I just wonder like what, like all the partners that I was like, he was the worst, he never did anything. Like, what if I came at it with the approach of like this empowerment thing, like we're doing this great thing, let's do it together. And maybe some of them, if they're more seasoned, they're probably like, shut up, kid, like get out of here. But really, like, because that was always my thing with when I finally got an apprentice. It's like, I'm going to teach you, I'm going to show you, I'm going to let you do it, I'm going to, and I don't know, there just is something about, and that's where I was saying, like, it's not really about participation trophies. It's just about like dignity and like granting someone the dignity to know that they're worth something. And I think if we can like really roll with that in the trades and like really like bring this like positive attitude, I just think the possibilities are endless because there's something, I mean, hazing and being like demeaning to someone, all it does is push them out and make them hate what they're doing. And when you hate what you're doing, you're not doing it with integrity. You're like, fuck this. I don't care. I don't care if it leaks later. I don't care about what the next guy does. But if we all come with the approach to like make something better than we came and found and like make it good so that the next guy's like, damn, the guy before me or girl was like, impress them. Like that's my goal. Like I want to impress the next guy. I want them to be like, ooh, I got a big shoe to fill here. And I think if we all can just like build that mentality and that whatever, then I don't know. I think the building trades, I mean, we're going to hit a point where, I mean, you can only have so many project managers versus the people on the tools. So something's got to give. And if everybody's trying to get off the tools because it's so miserable, then we need to change the environment that it's happening in.
Amen to that. Like, let's make it less miserable.
Yeah.
If it's not a safe place for women to work, then it's probably not safe for anybody. Let's make it safer. If it's a miserable environment, let's make it less miserable. And it doesn't have to be. You're so right. I'm curious, this like positive attitude that you have, you kind of imply that this was kind of a newer thing since going out on your own and having this amazing mentor, which cheers to your mentor for like conning you into owning your own business. I love that. He tricked you. He tricked you into owning your own business.
I will cheers to that.
Do you like, so if this positive attitude is newer, were you lacking the positive attitude before? Did it get beat out of you by being surrounded by negativity? Was like, what? Because I felt like I had it on my shoulder when I was in the industry, and I'm curious if it's for like similar reasons. And it was once I got out on my own that I fell back in love with it and had that positive attitude again.
So I will say, I mean, because that's the thing. People would always say, like, what do you mean you love your job? You're always miserable. Because I would go into work. I'd be nasty. I'd get in a hoist with like an elevator car full of men, and they would just like, none of them wanted to talk to me because if they said the wrong thing, I would bark, and I had that, but that was just because of me being hazed. Like, when politics were happening, they knew my politics, so they knew exactly what to say to me to like make me feel beat down, or if whatever the situation was. Like, I had foremen yell at me, but I always like, it was crazy because I hated Fridays and I loved Mondays, because Mondays meant that I had a week's worth of sunrises, because I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and climb to the top of the building, watch the sunrise, and then go to work. And that was like my thing. Like, it was part of like my love for, and that's sort of what made me love the high rise environment. Like, I'm working next to clouds. Like, I literally have clouds touching my skin. Like, who gets to say that? That's like, what a privilege. But it wasn't a privilege to other guys. They're like, oh, the wind and my face is wind burnt. And I'm like, yeah, it's wind burnt, but whatever. Like, we're next to the sun. Like, we're gods up here. Like, why don't you feel like that? And so I did have a negative attitude because I was miserable. I would get really miserable when I felt like I couldn't work to my standard. So cut a corner, rush a job, not be given the right information, and then I would do something, and the next day they're like, oh, that thing that we told you to do, you actually have to have it here instead of here, so take it out. And things like that, like, mentally beat you down. Like, I don't want to redo my work. I did an amazing job. It didn't leak. And now I got to take it all apart because yesterday you didn't feel like opening the book and looking at the height that it needed to be at. And I mean, there's situations where, you're just working to work, but a lot of it is preventable. It's project managers not organizing a job. It's a foreman not taking that time to organize their crew. And then the crew always gets blamed. So they didn't do it fast enough. They did it the first time wrong, even though they didn't have the proper information. So I think going out on my own, like, that was my first thing was, and like I said, I had a mentor. I had a really nicely paved road into this, where, like, I got to borrow his tools. He gave me extra tools. Like, so I definitely had like a extra leg up there. But when, like, there was a time when, I'm getting too many calls to like really be working with him, and he has his own thing. So we're like doing our own thing, and we like meet in the middle and chit chat and whatever. But my thing is if I get to a job and I don't have the right tool, I get the tool. Because I've worked on high rises. How do you work on high rises with multi-million-dollar corporations and you're sharing a drill? And I'm not talking a big chipping drill that costs $800. I'm talking about the drill that costs $150. Everyone should have their own drill. Everyone should have their own screwdriver. Like, why are we sharing a screwdriver? But that would happen. And that makes people miserable. And makes them lazy. Why am I gonna screw the screw in if I gotta walk all the way over there and down a flight of steps to get the screwdriver back up here, screw something in, and then they're going to take it back from me. And so that was always my thing. Like, if I do have a big job, like, I sat there and I planned, and I am not perfect. Every job, it's like that one fitting. I didn't get that one fitting, but it's just that one fitting. It's not the whole job. It's not every time we need to make a turn, we got to go back to Home Depot, or we got to go to the plumbing supply to get another fitting. Like, I plan it out. I like to account for like all the worst case scenarios, bring those tools. So that way, if the worst case scenario happens, I don't have to go home to get the tool or whatever it is. And I think that, like, between being empowered to know that I can do that and that I can work like that, and like actually going day after day, because there's I mean, literally yesterday I'm like, I don't feel like working this week and blah blah blah, and it's coming out of Memorial Day. I didn't really have my schedule all together, and now I'm booked till next week. And like, I do residential service, so I don't really book the way a lot of contractors do, like months out. I'm basically like a 2-week period. And usually I'm a procrastinator. So it's like, I book a whole week right there, and I book a whole week right there. But it's nice too, because like, I was talking to you earlier, I had a gas call, and I'm able to do that because I'm not tied up with all this big, house flipping or whatever it is. It's so much of my work is in West Philly. I can't tell you how many times I'm in the middle of a call and I'm like, okay, I'll just go eat lunch or something. And I get another call. And I'm like, actually, I can come there right now. And like, I always say, like, it's what I put out in the universe, and the universe gives back to me. Because I can't, if it were hard, I don't know how far along I would be, but it's so easy for me. Like, when I get these calls, I had a call on the east side of the city, and I was like, oh, most of my stuff's on the west side. Now I got to fit this in. And then 3 hours later, I had a whole day in the east side because someone saw, a recommendation, or their friend, told them to call me. And I'm like, I don't know. Thank you, karma. Thank you, whatever, stars,
You put in
stardust,
the
God,
work.
whatever it is. Like, I'm like, I really, and it's all word of mouth. I don't do any advertising. And it just really, like, I'm accountable, and I admit, I'll tell a homeowner, like, I messed up. This is what I have to do because I made a mistake. And I tell them, it's not like I fix it and I close the wall and I'm like, they don't even know that I did that. I tell them, like, because first, we all make mistakes. Second, it's their home. Like, I need to prepare them for what to know. Like, if I'm burying something behind a wall and they have no idea what's going on, and let's say it leaks in 5 years or something, like, they need to be aware of, like, and empower them to be in control of their own home. I walk in so many homes and people don't even know how to turn off their water heater. They don't know how to turn off their water. And like, when they learn that, they're like, wow, now if I have a flood, I'm not calling Kelly at 2 a.m. to come turn off a valve that she just showed me how to do. And I just think, being able to do that, and like, I guess, be the empowerer. Is that a word?
Yeah,
But
it
like,
works. We'll make it a
yeah,
word.
so like, to be that, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't want to sound, it's always like you sound conceited or whatever, but like, that's powerful. Like, I like that feeling. Like, I like the feeling of the power that it gives me, but also, it's never like a competitive power. It's a power that I want us all to have. And I think if we all can do that and like empower each other instead of being competitive and fighting for jobs, there is enough work. Unfortunately, like, we're feared into scarcity, and different areas have different needs. So like, some people end up down and out on their luck. Like, I'm lucky here. Like, there's not many, female plumbers in the city who are residential. There are a few, especially like a gay female plumber. So then that's a whole nother demographic that, like, they call me because the last plumber that they had wouldn't call him a him because he had long hair. So they kept calling him her. And it was like, that's why. What? First off, this is a business. So why aren't you like treating the customer with respect? They're going to pay you. Don't you want them to pay you? And that's another thing too I really like, I don't like to talk about it too much because it's not, good business practice, but I'm able to walk out of people's houses and I'm like, okay, I'll invoice you later. And these are people I've never met. I just learned their name via text last night while I was scheduling, and I emailed them the invoice and they pay it. But I'm not there. Like, I don't babysit them, and I don't invoice them. And they text me the next day. They're like, you didn't invoice me. I want to make sure you get paid. Like, how cool is it that the clients, and that I think is because of word of mouth. Like, I'm not going through Yelp. I'm not going through like things that are getting me these cold calls that might undervalue. Like, I'm getting someone who heard from their best friend that this is the person you can trust.
Yeah.
And when you find a tradesperson that you can trust, you want to pay them because you want them to come back and you don't want them to, right?
Yeah,
And
you're
I
building
don't,
that rapport with them and you're earning that. You've built that.
yeah,
I love I love that you got conned into being a business owner, but it is the perfect thing for you. I love that you fell into, in a sense, going to become a plumber because your ex didn't want to do it,
right.
that you wound up in it, but that you found the perfect career for you, and I love how that's all worked out so amazingly, and I just wanna highlight, like, that theme too in what you've been saying about, the positive attitude versus the negative attitude that I hear from so many women is this idea that, like, they love the work. The work they are in love with. The environment, the BS, the
Yeah.
politics, attitude, like all of the rest of it, like that's the stuff that gets really hard and makes it really rough. I just saw the time. It has already been well over an hour. This is what happens when you put two girls from the tri-state area in a room together to talk.
Yeah.
We can talk. I will tell you, we could probably talk for another like 2 or 3 hours. But I really want to be respectful of your time and I want to be respectful of everybody else's time. So I'm not gonna keep us much longer. I do have one final question that I would like to ask you, and that is if you had the opportunity to talk to little baby Kelly Ireland, little baby you, a younger version of you, what are your words of advice to her?
Um, you know what? I've been talking to this guy who started this Fuck Your Doubts. It's called page, and he asked me to write something, and that's probably what I would tell myself is like stop doubting yourself. Like, the potential that's there, if I don't build that wall for myself to have to climb over, because lots of people are like, oh, I have a can do attitude. I have a cannot do attitude. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm either too little, I'm too, I'm not smart enough, I'm not this, I'm not focused enough, I'm not organized enough. But really, like, the potential, if I just say, like, this is just a new adventure that you got to try and see if you can get to the end of the video game and get the gold star, like whatever. And those are things that I have to tell myself to get myself into it. But really, it would just be like, fuck your doubts, because that has been my biggest holdback. And it's like what, perpetuates my negative attitude. And I really just wish that I could tell little Kelly that, like, she really can do it, because I'm 36 years old and still, like, I get to things and I'm like, nope, can't be done, can't be done. And by the end of the day, maybe it's 11 o'clock at night, maybe it's not, maybe I get it done in an hour, but it always gets done. And that's something that really, like, when I go into it and I start having that mentality, that's what I tell them. I'm like, remember that time that you said you couldn't and you did, and all those times that you said you couldn't and you did. So just do it. Just do it. And if you can't, like, okay, we'll get to that roadblock, but, like, don't go into it saying you can't. So that, I think that is what I would tell myself, because that definitely is still a struggle, like self-confidence. And it's a struggle that I hear, and it's not just women, it's men, it's
Everyone.
all of us. Like, we have it ingrained that we're, like, built to fail, but,
Yeah.
like, the potential is always there.
I love that. And I love that visual that you painted of like, if I didn't build that wall that I now have to climb over, like we do that to
Oh my
ourselves,
God.
right? Like
Like,
there's enough
I
barriers in
built the wall,
life.
but I'm saying I can't do anything. Like, I literally built a wall and I gotta
Right.
climb it. So,
Right, like we have enough barriers in life. Why do we make
yeah.
it harder by building more barriers for ourselves to climb over? Kelly, this has been so much fun. I've really enjoyed talking to you. I love your perspective. I love your candidness and your honesty about everything. And we definitely need to talk more. We could definitely talk for a few more
Yeah.
hours here alone on all of these topics. But thank you so much for saying yes and agreeing to do this and sharing your story, sharing your experiences with everybody who joined in. So, big,
Thank
big
you so
thank you.
much for having me. I really appreciate it. This was a great chat.
Awesome. And thanks so much to all of you at home who came and spent part of your evening with us, who asked questions and participated. Thank you guys. It's great seeing some familiar faces each week. If you have questions, if you have topics, specific things that you'd love to hear us talk about, please send us a message, put it in the comments. We want to hear your questions and your topics that you'd like to hear more about. Or if you are or you know an awesome tradeswoman in any sort of hands-on trade, we want to hear from you. We want to be connected to her. We are always looking for more incredible women to feature, so definitely let us know. And while you're at it, make sure you hit like, hit subscribe, get alert notifications. If you're listening in the podcast form of this, please rate and review us. The more ratings and reviews we have, the more eyes get on this. And really the whole point of this podcast, this series, is to raise awareness about all of the incredible women in the trades and what their experiences are. And so more eyes, the better, right? We want these stories to get out there. So please, if you enjoy this series, please take a moment to rate and review. And as always, we will be back here every Wednesday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And then every Monday night at the same time, we do an archive release. As I mentioned earlier, this series has been going on for about 3 years, but it used to live under a different name and it used to live on Instagram. So every Monday, we release one of the past episodes from its past life on Instagram. So twice a week, you get to catch an episode of With Her Two Hands. So we will see you on Monday and we will see you on Wednesday. And until then, be good to yourselves, be good to one another. And we'll see you next time.